You cease granting them authority the instant you cease responding. When you maintain tranquility, you bewilder their turmoil. You condition yourself to select stillness over sentiment, concentration over annoyance, and gradually you become invulnerable. Not because nothing occurs, but because nothing disturbs you. That's how genuine power is demonstrated. In moments ahead, I will instruct you how to stay unperturbed, respond with authority, and navigate disorder like it's insignificant. You gain strength the instant you decline to be troubled. You might believe power emerges from clamor, from responding, yelling, protecting yourself at every opportunity, but authentic strength, it commences the instant you cease being disturbed, when you permit the world to shift around you without shifting you, when someone speaks against you and you continue moving, when existence hurls a tempest and you continue constructing your dwelling. What do you achieve by allowing others to manipulate your responses? Every occasion you erupt in fury, you surrender your command. Every occasion you permit a trivial offense to destroy your day, you make the world your ruler. You weren't created to be ruled. You were created to rule yourself. So how do you accomplish it? You decide. Each dawn you arise and select not to be moved. You discipline your mind like a warrior hones his blade. With repetition, with consciousness, with quietude, you inscribe it into your essence. Nothing troubles me. I stay collected, and when existence tests you, you practice again. Envision you're at employment. A person criticizes you before others. You sense the warmth ascending in your chest, but instead of responding, you grin. You appreciate him. You depart. That's strength. Not the strength to control, but to restrain. Question yourself what troubles you today, what disrupts your equilibrium, and who profits when you lose your tranquility. You've been instructed that silence is frailty, but let me inform you, silence is expertise. Because when you cease responding to nonsense, you ascend above it. And when you ascend above it, the world begins to observe. And more significantly, you begin to honor yourself. The world presses you until you press back quietly. Existence has a method of applying its burden on your shoulders. People examine your boundaries. Circumstances examine your nerves. But what most never discover is this: you don't need to shout to maintain your position. In fact, the most unshakable people rarely elevate their voice. You've witnessed it. A person who is tranquil under stress commands more notice than a person who loses his temperament. Why? Because composure is uncommon, and what's uncommon is honored. When you stay tranquil, you confuse disorder. When you decline to respond, the world adjusts to you. It's no longer you battling the world. It's the world learning to manage your silence. So how do you press back without noise? Through action, through boundaries, through unshakable purpose. You compose your mission. You maintain your stance. You preserve your tone steady, and you permit time to unveil your truth. Envision someone underestimating you, stating you'll never achieve it. You don't debate. You don't protect. You work. One day they witness your name in places they never imagined, and they'll remember. You never fought back. You ascended. What are you attempting to prove by responding to everything? Who are you attempting to convince? Let your work speak. Let your results correct the world's perception of you. You've been too accessible to every opinion, every criticism. But the instant you become selective in what moves you, that's when your strength returns. Quiet strength is not frailty. It's strategic. It's deliberate. And in the end, it triumphs. Let the flame burn around you, not within you. You can't control the wind. You can't halt people from talking, but you can halt the flame from getting inside you. That's your responsibility. That's the secret. Too many people spend their existence running from flames, avoiding conflict, attempting to change others, responding to every slight, and yet the only flame they should manage is the one within. You don't need to escape disorder. You need to condition yourself to walk through it untouched. Let the noise rage. Let people gossip. Let the world erupt. You maintain your mind tranquil, like water in a well, still and deep. How? You become an observer. You practice breathing before speaking. You question yourself. Is this worth my energy, or is this a distraction from my purpose? Then you act, or don't. Envision someone throws accusations your direction. You sense the sting, but you also sense your strength. You stand tall. You don't respond. And as time passes, the truth speaks. The flames die out, and there you are, unburned. Question yourself this: how many hours have you lost defending yourself to people who never mattered? How much energy have you given to battles that left you drained and unchanged? You were not born to fight every flame. You were born to ascend above them. The person who learns to contain his inner flame, who learns to burn for purpose, not for rage, that person becomes unstoppable. The world burns out quickly, but your strength, your tranquility, that lasts. You must select dignity over drama. Every single day, every morning you wake with a choice. You can chase noise, defend your ego, and run in circles attempting to win meaningless battles, or you can stand tall, quiet, and composed, no matter who attempts to drag you down. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to respond to every insult. Sometimes walking away is not frailty. It's wisdom. You must select dignity over drama again and again. Why? Because drama is a thief. It steals your time, your energy, and your peace, and it never pays you back. But dignity constructs your future. Every silent decision you make, every instant you decline to lower yourself, adds value to your character. So how do you select dignity? You define your principles. You question yourself, what kind of person am I becoming? You walk away from petty disputes. You cease proving your worth to those who. You focus on growth, not gossip. Picture this: someone mocks you in public. You grin. You don't flinch. You return to your task. Later they look foolish, not you, and everyone witnesses it. Question yourself. How many times have you responded only to regret it later? How many moments have you wasted chasing validation from those beneath your purpose? You are not here to entertain drama. You are here to construct destiny. You construct your legacy not by responding, but by ascending. Dignity is the path few walk, but those who do leave footprints that last forever. Control is the ultimate wealth. Own your emotions. There are many kinds of riches in this world: gold that glitters, land that stretches far, applause that echoes. But the rarest of them all is self-control, because gold can be stolen, land can be lost, and applause fades into silence. But the person who governs himself, he possesses a kind of wealth that no thief can touch, no flame can burn, no enemy can invade. He owns his peace, his direction, his strength, and in a chaotic world, that's priceless. You do not lose your strength when someone insults you. You lose it the second you permit their words dictate your state. That's the trap. Many people fall not to swords but to pride, not to battle but to their inability to master their reaction. One wrong word, one wounded ego, one flash of rage, and their empires crumble. Not because others were powerful, but because they were not in control. Understand this: control is not about burying what you sense. It's about guiding it. Suppression creates explosions. Direction constructs discipline. You don't ignore anger or sadness or pride. You simply don't permit them steer the wheel. You become the one who leads your emotions instead of being dragged by them. That's what makes a person dependable. That's what constructs trust, both in others and within yourself. Maturity is not coldness. It's quiet authority. So how do you gain this strength? Practice discipline. That's where it begins. When anger rises, don't act. observe. When pride flares, don't speak, wait. Give yourself space, step back, take a breath. Question, will this response serve my mission or sabotage it? 9 times out of 10, silence will serve you better. And even when you must act, let it be from strength, not impulse. Picture this. Someone whispers lies behind your back. You hear it, you sense it, but you don't chase it. You don't storm around declaring war. You maintain your posture, you stay focused, and slowly, that lie, it disappears. But your silence, that tranquil, unwavering poise becomes a legend. Because real strength doesn't panic. It doesn't need to prove itself. It proves itself by doing nothing and still standing. Now question yourself honestly. How many times have you handed your victory to emotion? How many steps forward were lost in moments of heated reaction? Temporary feelings often create permanent regrets. One outburst can break a relationship. One rash move can cost a dream. Is that a price you're willing to pay for the satisfaction of reaction? Or will you pay the smaller price of patience and maintain everything you've constructed? You were not created to be a slave to every mood. You were not born to be pulled by every emotional wave. You were designed for mastery, not over others, but over yourself. The person who controls himself becomes the one others cannot move. And in a world designed to provoke you, staying unprovoked is the ultimate demonstration of strength. That is real wealth. That is unshakable strength. Let small things stay small or they will rule you. A pebble in your shoe doesn't halt your journey because it's heavy. It halts you because you permit it stay. That's how most of existence's trouble begins, not with hurricanes, but with tiny, unnoticed grains. A careless comment, an indifferent tone, a glance that lingers too long, and suddenly your mind spirals, not because the thing is big, but because your attention made it so. The pebble becomes a mountain only if you carry it for miles. What would happen if you just stopped and removed it? Most of what upsets you won't matter a year from now or even a week. It doesn't touch your mission. It doesn't change your worth. The real problem is not the thing itself. It's that you maintain making everything matter. You turn every annoyance into a battle, every slight into a symbol. You lose yourself by giving energy to what doesn't deserve your energy. Here's the wisdom. Let small things stay small. Don't magnify the meaningless. Maturity is not found in responding to everything. It's found in selecting what's worth it. You can notice the irritation without feeding it. You can sense the sting without becoming the wound. A person of peace is not a person without enemies. He's a person who knows what deserves his attention and what deserves only a shrug. Let your inner world stay still, even when the outer world pokes and prods. How do you construct that stillness? You construct a threshold, a mental gate. You question yourself in the moment. Will this matter in 5 years? Does this help me grow? Is this worth the focus I'm about to give? If the answer is no, release it. Don't rehearse it, don't explain it, just let it go. Like brushing off dust from your coat. Like letting go of a thread that's not yours to pull. Picture this scene. Someone cuts you off in a line or interrupts your story or says your name wrong. You sense it, yes, but you don't feed it. You grin, you move on, and in that moment, you win. Not over them, but over yourself. You've proven that you can stay large even when the world shrinks. That kind of control is rare. That kind of strength is silent. What if you could condition your mind to discard small troubles like crumbs off a table? What if your peace didn't depend on others behaving perfectly, but on your refusal to shrink into smallness? What if your strength was measured not by how you fight, but by what you decline to fight for? Your peace is not constructed by controlling everything. It's constructed by declining to be pulled into battles that don't matter. You are not here to respond. You are here to ascend. Ascend above the dust, above the noise, above the pebble. Let it fall and walk on. Your value is proven in restraint, not reaction. You don't impress the world by how loud you are. Noise is everywhere, but tranquility is rare. You impress the world by how little it takes to move you. In storms, most scream. Few stand still. The person who holds back, who observes, who waits, he carries a quiet force. He doesn't attempt to prove because he knows, and what is known doesn't need to be shouted. That kind of self-respect. True strength isn't in the reaction, it's in the restraint. That's what separates leaders from followers. Most people live by reflex. They speak before thinking. They strike before understanding. They respond before listening. And in doing so, they reveal their lack of depth. But the one who doesn't leap into every impulse, he becomes magnetic. Not because he's attempting to be, but because tranquility in a storm always draws the eye. Restraint is not frailty, it is strength polished. Strength without direction destroys, but strength that's held back, shaped and released at the right moment, that changes things. Restraint is not silence for silence's sake. It's the wisdom to wait. It's the wisdom to permit the flame burn out before you enter the room. And when you finally speak, every word carries weight because it's clear you've measured them. So how do you develop this kind of presence? You condition it like a muscle. You sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. You allow silence instead of filling it. You breathe through the impulse to respond. You permit others rant, argue, and spill their emotions. You don't match their storm. You watch it pass. And in that space, you gain clarity. In that space, you earn control over yourself and eventually over the room. Picture this, a room filled with tension. Arguments fly, voices clash, emotions flare. But there you are, unmoved. You wait, you watch. And when you speak, it's not long, it's not loud, it's sharp, tranquil, and final. And just like that, the disorder dissolves. Not because you fought it, but because you didn't need to. Restraint gave your words strength. Your stillness shook the room louder than any shout could. Most people act to impress. But here's the truth. Impression fades. Purpose lasts. Question yourself, am I doing this because it matters or because I want to be noticed? Every act without purpose becomes noise. But when you act with clear intention, even silence becomes impactful. The person who knows doesn't need to prove. He doesn't chase approval. He moves only when it matters. And when he does, others follow. You don't need to respond to be seen. You need to withhold to be respected. The one who can pause while others panic becomes the leader by default. He becomes the voice others seek in noise, the tranquility that others lean on in confusion, not because he demanded respect, but because he embodied it. In a shaking world, be grounded. In loud rooms, be silent. In rising storms, be still. Because the world doesn't remember the loudest voice. It remembers the one who didn't flinch. Restraint is not absence, it's mastery. And in mastering your reactions, you master yourself. And once you master yourself, nothing can master you. When you cease responding, you start ruling. Every time you respond to foolishness, you step into its shadow. You enter an arena where truth doesn't matter and energy is wasted. And every time you attempt to prove yourself to those beneath your mission, you step down from your path, not because they pulled you, but because you selected to engage. But when you cease responding, something powerful shifts. You ascend. You step out of the noise and into control. You become an observer, not a participant. And that distance, that's where real strength lives. Silence can dominate in ways shouting never will. A tranquil non-response can silence a room more than force. When you don't respond, you're not weak, you're elevated. You send a message not just to others but to yourself. I am above this. You affirm your direction. You protect your energy. You construct a boundary around your focus. and that boundary becomes your strength. The instant you cease flinching at criticism, you begin to grow. You're no longer controlled by opinions. The instant you cease explaining yourself to doubters, you begin to expand. You no longer live for their approval. And when you cease being baited into conflict, you begin to rein in your space. You're not dragged into battles you didn't select. You ascend above them, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You don't need to fight for your name. Your presence proves enough. So how do you cease responding? You condition your focus like a lens. Every time something tugs at your emotions, you question one thing. Does this serve my mission? If the answer's no, you detach. Not with anger, not with drama, but with tranquil, deliberate grace. You don't need to slam the door. You simply cease walking into rooms that waste your light. Envision this. You're walking through town, focused on your goals. Someone shouts at you, calls you a failure. You hear it. You pause, you look, not with rage, but with stillness. And then you walk on. That walk, that's not escape, that's mastery. Because the person who walks away with dignity holds more strength than the person who stays to argue with a fool. That moment is a declaration. I select my peace over your disorder. Why feed things that don't feed you? Why spend your minutes and mind on distractions that dilute your mission? Every time you engage with what doesn't matter, you subtract from what does. Your time, energy, and focus are sacred. Treat them as such. Let gossip die without your voice. Let insult vanish without your defense. Let drama wither without your attention. When you cease responding to doubt, disorder, and noise, you begin to command, not by force, but by presence. Because true authority doesn't chase approval or validation. It stands firm. It moves forward. It leads. The world watches how you handle conflict and takes its cue. If you lead yourself with discipline, others follow that example. You set the tone. Rule yourself first. That's the foundation of all leadership. When your emotions answer only to your mission, not to provocation, you become unshakable. And in that stillness, in that silence, in that non-reaction, you ascend, not just above others, but into your highest self. Let people talk. Your silence will echo louder. You cannot control what people say. Their opinions, judgments, and gossip belong to them, not to you. But what you become in response, that's entirely within your strength. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them project their own limitations onto you. While they speak, you construct. While they waste time weaving stories, you stay on mission. And the higher you ascend, the quieter they'll become. Not because you silenced them, but because your progress did. There's a strength in silence that noise can never imitate. When you decline to argue, when you don't explain, when you don't respond, you multiply your energy. Your silence doesn't mean frailty, it means focus. When others rant and gossip, you create. While they circle in petty debates, you evolve in solitude. And one day, when your work stands tall and undeniable, they'll be forced to look up and wonder how you did it. Let people talk. Let them get it wrong. Let them misunderstand. You do not have to chase every false word like a flame to be extinguished. It is not your responsibility to explain yourself to every voice that doesn't understand your path. Most noise fades. Most critics forget their own words. But truth remains. Character remains. The person who pauses every step to argue with barking dogs, he never reaches the summit. But the one who climbs in silence, he arrives. How do you hold that silence without breaking? By anchoring yourself in work. You focus on the craft, the grind, the calling. You don't drift into distractions. You don't look over your shoulder. You question yourself daily. Does this serve my mission? If it doesn't, you ignore it. You maintain your hands busy and your mind clear. That's how greatness is constructed, not through defense, but through direction. Picture this. You begin something bold, a business, a dream, a new way of existence. People smirk, they scoff behind your back. Some even say it to your face. But you say nothing. You don't clap back. You don't debate. You show up again and again. You work when they sleep. You construct when they laugh. And years later, when you're thriving, they question for advice. But you don't have to speak. Your existence says it all. Question yourself. What could I construct if I ceased defending myself and started believing in myself? What kind of momentum would I gain if I let go of needing to be understood and embraced the silence of focus? Every minute spent explaining yourself is a minute lost from execution. Your time is a seed planted in your vision, not in their noise. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your results respond for you. The mansion doesn't explain how it was constructed. It stands. The tree doesn't justify its roots. It grows. The sun doesn't answer the dark. It rises. You don't need to prove. You need to become. And when you do, everything changes. Because the greatest strength is not found in being heard. It's found in becoming undeniable. Not when you force people to see, but when they can't ignore what you've become. Strength is when you stay tranquil, especially when you're right. Anyone can stay quiet when they're wrong. Silence feels like retreat. But to stay tranquil when you're right, that requires mastery. That's a test of ego, of wisdom, of true inner strength. Because nothing stings quite like being misjudged or misunderstood when you know the truth. The impulse to correct, defend, and prove is powerful. But the one who can hold that flame, who can select peace over pride, that person holds a strength few ever earned. When you've been wronged or falsely accused, the ego screams. It wants the last word. It wants justice now. It shouts, explain yourself, show them. But wisdom whispers softly, let it go. That whisper is easy to ignore. It doesn't feel satisfying, but it's the path of the strong. You're not letting go because you're weak. You're letting go because you know that peace and progress are worth more than temporary validation. Staying tranquil when you're right doesn't mean you're surrendering the truth. It means you've ascended above the noise. It means you've traded the instant gratification of being right for the long-term strength of being focused. When you know the truth and select not to respond, you protect your energy. You reserve your flame for the mission that matters, not a debate that doesn't. The wisest warriors don't fight every battle. They conserve their strength for what's worthy. How do you stay composed when your truth is under flame? You fix your eyes on the bigger vision. You question yourself, does this help me grow? Will proving them wrong help me move forward? Most of the time, the answer is no. So instead of spending your day attempting to be understood by someone who refuses to see, you move forward quietly, powerfully, intentionally. Envision this. Someone twists your words. They mock your intentions. They throw shade when you're constructing in the light. Your blood simmers. You want to explain. You want to flame back, but instead you breathe, you nod, you grin, and you maintain constructing. Weeks pass, their words vanish like smoke. But your results? They stand, they echo, and they turn doubters into silent observers. You didn't need to argue. You just needed to maintain going. Question yourself, how many peaceful days have you traded for the satisfaction of being right? How many relationships strained? How many opportunities missed? How many mental hours wasted attempting to prove a point that didn't matter in the long run? You may win the argument and lose the moment. You may be right and still go backward. Wisdom isn't just about knowing truth. It's about knowing what to do with it. There's a higher ground than being right. It's being unbothered. It's being centered. It's walking through noise and selecting silence. The person who can remain still in a storm, especially when he's right, becomes a force that others can't shake. Because when your peace no longer depends on others' understanding, you've reached a different level of strength, one that's rooted, one that's unshakable. This kind of strength is rare. It turns heads without shouting. It constructs empires without clashing swords. It leaves legacies not through force, but through example. People may not always agree with you. They may not even see your side. But when your existence is proof of your principles, you no longer need their approval. You become your own confirmation. Let the world throw its words. Let them misjudge. You don't have to correct every misconception. You don't have to chase every false story. You just have to continue. In time, the truth always emerges, and when it does, your dignity will be intact. Your energy will be strong, and your legacy will be constructed not on noise, but on grace. So the next time your truth is challenged and your heart aches to speak, pause. Remember who you are. Remember what you're constructing. Question yourself. Does this matter? Is this worth the cost of my tranquility? If not, let it pass. Let your silence speak. Let your results thunder. Because the highest form of strength is not needing to prove. Your tranquility is a weapon, and few know how to wield it. There's something deeply unsettling about a person who doesn't flinch. The world hurls disorder, criticism, and pressure his way. Yet he remains tranquil, steady, unmoved. People begin to question him. They wonder what he's hiding, what makes him so composed, but the truth is simple. He's hiding nothing. He has mastered himself. He doesn't need to respond. He doesn't need to explain. His silence is not emptiness. It's full of strength. His stillness is not frailty. It's sharp control in motion. Tranquility threatens the untrained. It shakes those who rely on drama for relevance. When you decline to be provoked, you become a mirror. You reflect their instability back to them. The louder they get, the more your silence exposes them. When you don't ascend to meet their energy, they lose grip, not just over you, but over themselves. That's why tranquility, when real, is mistaken for arrogance. But it's not arrogance, it's ascension. Most people respond to everything. A tone, a glance, a post, a moment of discomfort. Their emotions sit at the surface, just waiting to be poked. And so the world controls them. One insult and they're shattered. One disagreement and they're spinning. But envision conditioning yourself to be different. Envision responding only when the response moves you forward. Envision conserving your energy like it's gold, because it is. That kind of discipline constructs a person others can't rattle. To get there, you must condition your nervous system, not just your thoughts. You must discipline your reactions. Cease rehearsing comebacks in your head. Cease justifying yourself to people who don't understand your path. Begin to view tranquility as precision. When you hold your silence, you're not ignoring existence. You're selecting your battles with intent. You're not passive. You're powerful. You've selected clarity over disorder, and that choice rewires how you move in the world. Picture this moment. Someone confronts you unfairly. They twist your words. They attempt to provoke a reaction. You sense your chest tighten, your blood warm, but instead of matching their energy, you do something they don't expect. You pause. You meet their gaze. You grin, not sarcastically, but knowingly, and you turn back to your task. That moment, that's strength. Because they gave you disorder and you responded with clarity. While they burn with emotion, you remain untouchable. Your attention stays on your mission. Your peace stays intact. And they have nothing to strike. You gave them no target. In that moment, you own not just yourself, but the room. And it's not because you spoke louder. It's because you didn't need to speak at all. Now question yourself, how much energy have you wasted responding to what didn't matter? How many hours of peace were traded away for the short-lived satisfaction of being right? How often have you permitted small things rob you of big focus? You weren't meant to fight every battle. You were meant to win the right one. Your energy is sacred. Every reaction you give away is strength lost. Your tranquility is your shield. It protects your mind, your schedule, your purpose. It guards your time from being devoured by distractions. And more than that, it constructs your presence. The less you respond, the more you command. When others run wild, you walk slow. When they throw noise, you answer with silence. Not because you can't respond, but because you selected not to. In a world ruled by noise, stillness is suspicious, but let it be. Let them wonder why you don't flinch. Let them question your silence. While they gossip, rant, and spiral, you construct. You sharpen. You stay focused. The reward is not just peace, it's progress. You will ascend while others waste their breath, and they won't understand how you did it because they were too loud to notice the quiet strength passing them by. So the next time you're tested, pause, question yourself, does this deserve my energy? If it doesn't, let it die in silence. Let your tranquility say what your words never need to. Because mastery is not shown in how loud you get, but in how little it takes to move you. And when you become the person who doesn't flinch, you become the person no one can halt. The highest discipline is emotional self-control. You may think the fiercest battles are out there where money moves fast, where people compete to win, where strategies clash, but the deepest war? It's not external. It's the invisible war inside you. It's the struggle to remain tranquil when everything screams for you to lose control. It's the daily decision to lead your emotions rather than follow them. This inner war doesn't shout, it whispers. It tests you when no one is watching, when you're hurt, rejected, or insulted. And how you respond in those moments, that's your true strength. A person who cannot govern his emotions is not free. He may look powerful, speak boldly, even lead others, but one sharp word can break him. He is at the mercy of moods, of misunderstandings, of passing opinions. His peace is held hostage by how others treat him. But the one who disciplines his emotional world, he becomes unshakable. He becomes rare. He becomes dangerous, not because he harms, but because he cannot be harmed. Control doesn't mean you become numb. It means you remain rooted when the storm hits. It's clarity in disorder. When others lose their heads, you maintain yours. When betrayal shows up at your door, you do not collapse. You process, you pause, and you persist. You sense, but you don't drown. You hurt, but you don't halt. You carry your pain with dignity instead of wearing it like armor. That's the quiet mark of a person who's conditioned himself beyond emotion. So, how do you reach this level of control? You practice detachment. You don't detach from existence or relationships. You detach from the need to instantly respond. You pause between stimulus and reaction. You question things. Instead of saying, why me, you question, what can I learn from this? That question alone shifts your strength. It gives you control, not over the world, but over yourself. And that's the only control worth mastering. Picture this. You receive a rejection, job, proposal, idea. The sting is real. Your pride wants to shout, to prove, to explain, but instead you do something powerful. Nothing. You sit, you breathe, you process it like a tranquil river, not a crashing wave, and you return to your craft. Weeks later, an unexpected opportunity appears. Better, deeper, aligned. Why? Because you didn't permit the wrong door halt you from walking your path. Now question yourself. What if you ceased responding to every little thing? What if instead of panicking, you paused? What if you conditioned yourself to observe before you answered, to respond with strength rather than emotion? Your existence would become simpler, clearer, more focused. You wouldn't be dragged into arguments, sucked into drama, or wounded by every passing storm. You'd carry peace like a sword, and people would sense it. The person who leads his emotions leads his existence, but the person led by his emotions, he's always chasing shadows, attempting to fix things outside that are broken inside. He responds to the moment and ruins the mission. Every high makes him arrogant. Every low makes him hopeless. But when you gain control, your circumstances cease dictating your character. You move from being reactive to being strategic. You become a builder, not a slave. Let's make something clear. Restraint is not frailty. It is the greatest form of strength. Anyone can shout, anyone can break things, but it takes strength to stay tranquil in disorder, to walk away when provoked, to remain silent when falsely accused. That's not passive. That's dominance, because you are selecting you. You are selecting peace over pride, focus over fury, purpose over panic, and that decision separates the strong from the scattered. This doesn't mean you'll never sense anger or pain. It means you don't permit those emotions control the wheel. You acknowledge them, but you don't obey them. You know when to speak and when to stay still. You know that not every battle is worth your energy. Some things are beneath your mission. Some insults don't deserve answers. Some disorder doesn't need your attention because your existence is too valuable for distraction. So the next time you're tempted to explode, pause. When someone disrespects you, breathe. When existence throws flame, don't throw wood. Respond with thought, not emotion. That gap between sensing and action, that's where strength lives. That's where your destiny is shaped, not in the reaction, but in the decision, in the restraint, in the quiet refusal to permit the world dictate your inner world. This emotional control isn't constructed overnight. It's conditioned, forged, strengthened through daily practice. Begin small. Delay your reactions. Challenge your assumptions. Study your patterns. And above all, remember your mission. When you live from mission, not emotion, you become powerful. You don't waste yourself proving your worth. You show your worth by your silence, your precision, your refusal to be shaken by noise. Control your emotions and you command your direction. Let emotions rule and you become a puppet of the moment. Greatness does not ascend from endless action. It ascends from disciplined stillness. The world will test you. People will provoke you. But only you decide who you become in response. Select wisely. Select control. And in that choice, you will ascend above them all. Composure is proof you believe in your future. When you truly believe in where you're going, you cease panicking over where you are. You don't crumble over delays. You don't beg for shortcuts. You don't force results or chase applause. You simply move forward, steady, focused, composed. Because belief silences urgency. It replaces panic with patience. You trust the season you're in even when it's slow, because you know it's preparing you for the one that's coming. Your eyes aren't just on what's in front of you. They're locked on a vision, and that vision makes you unshakable. Composure is often misunderstood. People think it's passivity, a lack of hunger, or being emotionally cold. But composure isn't laziness, it's certainty. It's the quiet confidence that says, I may not have what I want now, but I'm on the way. It's a mind rooted in conviction, not in disorder. You're not pretending things don't matter, you just decline to permit them control your energy. That's real strength. Those who constantly respond, defend themselves, explain everything, argue every criticism, often lack a clear direction. When you don't know who you are or where you're going, everything becomes a threat. So you grasp for attention, chase approval, and fight shadows. But the one who has a vision, he doesn't chase noise, he filters it. He sees distractions for what they are and maintains constructing. A person with direction is a person with peace because he knows what's his doesn't require force. It only requires faith and effort. How do you construct this level of tranquility? Through repetition, through daily rehearsal of belief. You speak your mission out loud. You clarify your direction. You remove excuses and replace them with action. You construct routines, systems, and disciplines that remind you, I'm on track. And when doubt shows up, and it will, you don't argue with it emotionally. You answer it with preparation. Your calendar, your habits, your consistency, they all speak louder than fear. Now envision this. You tell someone your dream. They scoff. They say it's foolish, too big, unrealistic. In the past, you might have defended yourself, explained your vision, sought validation, but now, you just nod, you grin, you return to your work. Why? Because you've grown. You don't just believe in your dream, you believe in yourself. Their disbelief doesn't disturb your focus, it confirms it. Because real belief doesn't need to be loud. It simply continues. This is the test. Do your reactions reveal confidence or expose insecurity? When you hear criticism, do you break? When plans shift, do you panic or do you breathe, recalibrate, and maintain moving? A composed person is anchored. His emotions may stir, but they don't steer. He lives from principle, not impulse. And that's why people begin to notice, not because he's shouting, but because he's centered. They respect his future, because he clearly does. Composure is not about not caring. It's about not collapsing. It's strength in silence. It's flame under control. It's the ability to walk away from foolish battles because you're focused on a greater war. You understand the value of your energy, so you don't waste it proving things. You produce things, and your results speak volumes. That's why composed people ascend, not because they fought everything, but because they preserved themselves for what mattered. Let others be loud. Let them swing wildly. You hold steady. You think long. You construct slow, knowing that shortcuts crumble. Your goal isn't just to arrive, it's to last. And that requires patience, discipline, and deep-rooted faith. Every time you stay tranquil under pressure, you prove to yourself that you are already becoming the person your future requires. You cease asking for signs. You become one every day. You'll be tested. You'll be tempted to shout, to hurry, to explain. But you must remember, the tranquil person always has more strength because he hasn't wasted it, because he channels it. And over time, that makes him unstoppable. Emotions fade, opinions change, but the person who walks steadily outlasts them all. He doesn't need to declare his strength. He embodies it, step by step, day by day. What would your existence look like if you lived with this kind of composure? If you ceased over-explaining, overreacting, overthinking, and simply trusted your pace? You would gain time, you would reclaim energy, you would draw people in, not with performance, but with presence. And you would ascend, not in a rush, but in rhythm. Let this be your daily reminder. Your silence isn't frailty, it's your strategy. So never forget, the person who walks tranquilly walks far. While others sprint in fear, you move with wisdom. While others crumble under doubt, you ascend through discipline. Because tranquility isn't just a posture, it's a weapon. And those who master it, they win more than battles. They win themselves. They become the kind of people who not only reach the top, but stay there, anchored by inner peace. Let time be your spokesman, not your mouth. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most confident. Their volume hides uncertainty. Their need to explain, defend, and declare is often rooted in fear. Fear that if they don't say it, no one will see it. But the person who knows who he is doesn't need to convince the room. He lets time speak. He lets results speak. While others seek validation through noise, he constructs quietly. He knows his worth isn't proven by words. It's confirmed by outcomes. And those outcomes, they take time. You don't have to announce every move. You don't need to argue every opinion or justify every delay. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't rush to be seen. It waits to be undeniable. Truth has a strange way of ascending always. And when you live in integrity with focus and discipline, the need for defense disappears, because eventually time tells the story better than you ever could. Silence backed by excellence. That's the loudest thing in the world. It's not passive, it's preparation. It's not avoidance, it's strategy. Most people can't handle silence because they don't trust the process. So they overshare, overreact, and overprove. But when you believe in what you're constructing, you don't panic. You play the long game. You permit others talk while you create. Let them count you out. That only makes the unveiling more powerful. When you reveal your work, not with words, but results, the world will understand what silence was hiding. So the one who trusts time has no need to rush the spotlight. He doesn't ask to be seen. He becomes impossible to ignore. He doesn't defend what he's constructing. He sharpens it. He doesn't chase attention. He constructs attention-worthy things. And when the work is finally revealed, it doesn't just impress. It stuns. Because while others were broadcasting their plans, he was executing them in silence. Let this be your edge. Let your discipline replace your declarations. How do you practice this kind of silence? You select privacy over performance. You resist the urge to explain your every move. You cease justifying to people who don't matter. You cease performing for validation and instead focus on real output. You condition yourself to move without updates, to construct without applause, and to plan without announcement. Because in the end, your results won't ask for permission to be seen. They will demand it. Envision working on a business, a craft, or a dream behind closed doors. People start assuming you've failed, you've gone quiet. They don't see the daily struggle, the hours of unseen effort. They laugh, they doubt, they forget. And then months later, you release it. A book, a product, a breakthrough. The same people who dismissed you, now they're watching, shocked, inspired, curious, but you don't need to explain. You just permit them witness what you constructed. Question yourself, how much energy would you reclaim if you ceased constantly talking about what you'll do and simply did it? Every word spent defending your dream is a word not used to construct it. Every time you argue, you drain yourself. Silence isn't frailty, it's leverage. It gives you space. It sharpens your focus. It maintains the enemy guessing and the noise outside your gate. Because silence is not emptiness, it's containment of strength. Your silence is not retreat, it's preparation. While others exhaust themselves attempting to be seen, you conserve your energy for the right moment. While they post updates, you post progress. And when your moment comes, it hits harder because no one saw it coming. You didn't promise it, you proved it. Let this become your operating system. Less talk, more execution. Fewer promises, more precision. Fewer explanations, more elevation. Let others waste their breath attempting to convince. Let them seek followers, attention, and credit. You chase mastery. You chase truth. You refine your craft so deeply that it no longer needs introduction. When your work speaks, it carries the weight of silence and the echo of purpose. It doesn't need hashtags or approval. It stands on its own because it was constructed in solitude, sharpened in silence, and released in strength. And that's the key. Time, when partnered with purpose, speaks with unmatched authority. It cannot be debated. It cannot be denied. It cannot be faked. That's why you must learn to use time like a weapon, not by rushing it, but by trusting it. You give time the raw material of discipline, effort, and patience. And in return, time becomes your loudest voice. It becomes your evidence, your witness, your ally. So step back from the need to be understood. Release the habit of over-explaining. Learn to love the quiet grind. Let time construct your case. Let results be your statement. And remember this: the one who constructs in silence owns the stage when it's time. Because when you trust the work and trust the wait, you don't just arrive, you arrive transformed. In the end, your silence will speak louder than all the noise you resist. Your work will echo longer than any defense you didn't give, and your discipline will shine brighter than any spotlight you didn't chase. Let time speak for you, and when it does, it will speak louder than you ever could. When you master reaction, you master relationships. The success of every relationship, whether in business, friendship, or family, comes down to a single skill: how well you manage your own emotions. It's not about controlling others. That's impossible. It's about mastering yourself when things don't go your way. Every argument, misunderstanding, or conflict becomes a test not of their behavior, but of your emotional discipline. And the person who fails that test repeatedly, he sabotages opportunity after opportunity. But the one who holds steady, he constructs trust, credibility, and connection that last. You cannot control how others speak, think, or treat you, but you can control what you become in their presence. This is the difference between a reaction and a response. The reactive person is a slave to ego. The responsive person is guided by purpose. When you get offended by every word, every delay, every challenge, you weaken your influence. But when you hold yourself together, others begin to see you as stronger than the situation. Think of it this way. The person who argues over every word destroys more than he wins. Even if he's right, he leaves damage in his wake. Trust erodes, respect diminishes. But the person who listens before reacting, who pauses before speaking, who remains tranquil even when disorder erupts around him, that person becomes magnetic. People gravitate toward those who make them feel safe, respected, and heard. He doesn't dominate conversations. He guides them with maturity. People don't remember every sentence you say, but they never forget how you made them sense. If your presence brings peace instead of pressure, stability instead of storms, then you become someone others want to be around. That's leadership, not by force, but by composure. When you can maintain tranquility while others fall apart, you naturally ascend in status, even without a title, because you show that you are in control. So, how do you condition this level of emotional control? By putting mission over emotion. Every time you sense triggered, question yourself, will this response help construct the bridge or burn it? You don't always need the last word. You don't always need to correct someone. Sometimes silence is the most powerful move you can make, because silence often speaks maturity. And maturity maintains the connection alive long after emotions have faded. Picture this. A colleague openly questions your authority in a meeting. You sense the heat ascend. Your instinct wants to shut them down, defend your name. But instead you pause, you breathe, you respond with clarity, not ego. You stay focused on the mission, not your pride. Afterward, others respect you more. Not just for your point, but for your poise. And that colleague, they begin to respect you too. Not because you overpowered them, but because you handled yourself. Now question yourself, how many relationships, partnerships, or chances have you strained because you needed to be right, because you reacted instead of reflecting? Emotionally impulsive people may win arguments, but they often lose people. And over time, that's a high price. You need others to construct anything meaningful, so the more you control your reactions, the more you open doors instead of closing them. Mastering your reactions isn't just about inner peace. It's about external influence. In every room, the most respected person is rarely the loudest. It's the one who maintains their cool when tension ascends, the one who listens, who selects when to speak, who shows respect even when they don't receive it. That person earns trust. That person earns access. Because composure is the mark of someone who's ready to lead by example, not just by title. And here's the deeper truth. Connection constructs your future. You don't ascend alone. You ascend through relationships. Every mentor, investor, ally, or friend is a bridge. Don't burn them for the sake of ego. Preserve them through patience. Select understanding over outbursts. Select clarity over control. When you lead with tranquil presence, people want to help you, follow you, and stand beside you because you become the rare type they trust. Every great future is constructed on great relationships, and every great relationship is preserved through mastered reactions. Your ability to stay composed in hard moments will define how far you go. So condition yourself daily. Reflect on your triggers. Prepare responses in advance. Practice empathy without agreement. And remember, sometimes your silence, your pause, your grin can say more than your argument ever will. Let others explode, you remain grounded. Let them argue, you stay aligned with your purpose. The world needs less noise and more people of substance. People who can take heat without raising their voice. People who can correct without condemning. People who can lead without needing to dominate. You become that person not through titles but through self-restraint. So, commit to this discipline. Master your reactions, master your relationships, because the person who can control himself can connect with anyone, and the person who can connect can construct anything. If you stay tranquil long enough, the truth will fight for you. You don't have to chase justice. You don't have to beg anyone to see your side. When you remain tranquil, when you continue to walk in integrity, in purpose, in stillness, the truth will ascend on your behalf. That's not wishful thinking. That's reality. That's law. Time has a strange way of revealing everything that was hidden. Lies fade, accusations weaken, but character remains. And when you permit your character speak louder than your defense, you gain something far stronger than sympathy. You gain respect. You've witnessed it before. The person who scrambles to explain himself, who insists on being understood, often looks guilty, even when he's not. But the one who stays composed, who says little, who stays focused, he holds strength. Because panic always weakens your position, but tranquility suggests certainty. It signals strength. It tells the world, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. Time will. Most people respond instantly. They can't stand silence. They fear being misjudged. So they rush to correct every narrative, to clear their name, to be heard. But here's the truth. Fear never constructs anything lasting. Reactivity is rooted in insecurity. It's driven by the need for approval. But approval is unstable. One moment you have it, the next it's gone. What lasts is trust. And trust is constructed not through explanations, but through quiet consistency. So what do you do when someone falsely accuses you? When they twist your intentions? When they whisper behind your back? You resist the urge to engage. You don't lower yourself to their level. You stay still. You stand rooted in your mission. You speak through your work because nothing silences a rumor more effectively than results. You double down, not on revenge, but on excellence. Picture this. Someone attempts to tear you down. They spread rumors, question your integrity, attempt to poison your reputation. You burn inside. Your pride wants to scream, but you don't. You do something much harder. You breathe, you grin, and you go back to work. Days turn into months. Your performance outshines the gossip. Your tranquility unsettles your critics. And the same people who once believed the lies, now they respect your restraint. This is the difference between people who respond and people who lead. Leaders understand that not every battle requires a sword. Some victories come from silence, from outlasting the storm, from staying composed when it's easier to explode. Question yourself. How many opportunities have you ruined by speaking too soon? How many alliances have you damaged by defending yourself too aggressively? And how much more could you gain by permitting your success do the talking? When you know the truth and you know who you are, you cease chasing validation. You cease arguing with shadows. You cease explaining yourself to those who've already decided not to understand you, because you realize it's not your responsibility to be understood. It's your responsibility to stay aligned with your values, aligned with your path, aligned with your inner peace. Let them lie, let them watch, let them doubt. None of it changes your truth. You don't need everyone to believe you. You just need to remain unshaken. Because in the end, truth always ascends. Maybe not on your timeline, maybe not in your preferred way, but it ascends. And when it does, the silence you maintained becomes your greatest strength. People remember the dignity you held when you could have broken. Understand this. The loudest defense is often insecurity in disguise. But tranquility, real tranquility, is earned. It comes from doing the inner work, from constructing an existence so strong, so mission-driven, so filled with purpose that no accusation can derail it. You cease needing to defend every corner. You know that time is your advocate. You know that consistency is your court. And in that courtroom, results are evidence. There is strength in stillness, not the kind that hides, but the kind that waits, that selects wisdom over impulse, that watches the storm pass without stepping into it. When you live this way, people begin to see you differently. They see your patience, your discipline, your ability to lead yourself under pressure. And that's when doors begin to open, not because you shouted, but because you stood firm. So the next time someone tests you with a lie, remember, you don't need to fight every flame. Some flames burn out when you cease feeding them. Let your work speak. Let your peace speak. Let your existence speak. Because the truth doesn't need a defense, it needs time. And when it finally arrives, it will roar louder than any voice that ever ascended against you. Let others waste their breath, you protect your energy. Let them push for reactions, you protect your mission. Because when all the noise fades and the dust settles, it's not the argument they'll remember. It's your poise. And that poise, that's strength, that's victory, that's truth, doing the talking. You are not meant to be easily moved. A leaf moves with the wind. A rock stays grounded. Which are you? The world is full of people swayed by every opinion, setback, or slight. One harsh word throws them off. One delay ruins their day. But greatness is not constructed in those who shift with every gust. It's constructed in those who stand firm, rooted, focused, steady. This world doesn't need more reactive people. It needs people who carry weight, who hold their ground, not with arrogance, but with quiet strength. You were never made to be blown around. You were not created to be easily moved. You were meant to be anchored, meant to walk into a room and set the tone, not adapt to it. Your presence should carry tranquility. Your voice should carry clarity. Others adjust to you not because you dominate, but because you radiate certainty. This is your strength, to remain the same regardless of disorder, noise, or shifting opinions. So, why do most people change so quickly? Because they have no internal anchor. Their mood depends on approval. Their confidence depends on comfort. Their tone depends on whether others are kind. This is not strength, it's dependence. It's a fragile way to live. Strength begins the moment you cease permitting circumstances select your mindset. You condition your inner world so deeply that nothing external shakes what's been constructed inside. How do you develop this inner immovability? You construct identity. You decide who you are before the world does. You write your own code. You wake up each day and select your tone, your attitude, your focus, and you don't let go of it. No matter who offends you, no matter what goes wrong, no matter how people treat you, because your behavior is not a reflection of them, it's a reflection of you. Picture this. You wake up prepared, but everything goes wrong. Your ride is late, your project is criticized, someone disrespects your effort. You sense it, but you don't flinch. You maintain your composure, you answer with poise. You don't permit the world pull you into its storm because you're constructed for something greater. You don't crumble over details. You walk through the flame without changing temperature. That's real stability. Question yourself, are you a thermostat or a thermometer? Thermometers respond to temperature. Thermostats set it. Thermometers mirror the room. Thermostats shape it. Which are you? Are you someone who reflects moods, energies, and disorder around you? Or are you someone who brings clarity, tranquility, and confidence into the space? Immovable people don't just survive the day, they lead it. They decide what energy will prevail regardless of what comes. Being unshakable doesn't mean being emotionalist, it means being disciplined. It means you sense things, but you don't become them. You don't permit a mood drive the mission. You don't permit a setback rewrite your story. You can be honest about your struggle, but still steady in your response. That balance is rare, but it's also magnetic. People are drawn to those who remain firm under pressure. This world will throw wind at you every day, confusion, criticism, disappointment, disrespect. But if you want to construct anything lasting, anything powerful, you must become someone the wind cannot move. You must condition yourself to respond from identity, not injury, from intention, not impulse. That's how leaders ascend. Not because they were never tested, but because they were never shaken. Envision how powerful your existence could be if you selected to be unmovable, if you ceased adjusting your energy for things that don't deserve it, if you ceased giving your peace away to minor offenses. If you maintain showing up with consistency regardless of how others act, that's how people remember you, not by your reaction, but by your reliability. Your grounded nature becomes your legacy. Don't permit people's mood swings control your mental state. Don't permit traffic, delay, or criticism own your day. Own yourself. Decide how you want to show up and show up like that no matter what. Let others call you stubborn. Let them call you cold. One day they'll call you respected because when the storm came, you didn't sway. You stood, and others leaned on your strength. The world doesn't need more noise. It doesn't need more speed. It needs weight. People who walk with gravity. People who bring stillness to disorder. Be the one who can enter a volatile room and settle it. Not with dominance, but with quiet presence. You don't have to shout. You don't have to prove. Just be rooted. And watch how the world begins to listen even in silence. This is your mission. Be the person who is not moved by small things, so you are ready for the big things. Construct so deeply within yourself that no disappointment, no betrayal, no unexpected blow can shift your course. Because when you become immovable, you don't just survive the storm, you guide others through it. And that right there is leadership. That is your calling. What you ignore, you outgrow. Not everything deserves your attention. In fact, the more you learn to ignore, the more strength you regain. Attention is energy, and energy is limited. What you give it to grows. If you maintain responding to every slight, every petty insult, every piece of noise, you make small things bigger. You breathe existence into distractions that should have died in silence. But when you withhold your reaction, something powerful happens. They begin to wither, and in that same silence, you ascend. Most people don't realize this. They sense obligated to respond, to explain, to clarify. But the truth is, you're not responsible for managing the stories others create about you. You're responsible for constructing your own. You weren't constructed to wrestle with shadows. You were constructed to walk in light, to ascend above the weeds, not wrestle in them. The moment you cease feeding drama, it loses its grip. The moment you focus, you don't need to address every insult. You don't need to clear up every lie. You don't need to prove yourself to those who've already selected not to see you. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them watch. Your responsibility is to construct, to stay rooted, to decline the bait. Not everything that calls for your attention deserves it. If you want to ascend, you must learn this early. Your silence is your strategy. So, how do you master the art of ignoring? You shift your focus. You remind yourself daily, my goals are louder than my enemies. You make your mission more attractive than the noise. You condition yourself to recognize distraction as what it is, a trap in disguise. Every provocation is a fork in the road. Respond or ascend. Don't feed what you want to fade. Don't touch what you want to die. Envision this. Someone speaks ill of you in public. They twist your words, question your motives, mock your work. You hear about it. The old version of you would have fired back, but now you stay silent. You don't chase their attention. You chase your mission. You pour yourself into your craft. Months pass. Your work speaks louder than any defense. Their gossip fades, and you've become undeniable. Question yourself. What have you been feeding that should have been starved? Are you nurturing distractions with your constant attention? Are you maintaining petty drama alive by giving it your energy? The things you cease responding to begin to lose strength. You don't destroy them with anger, you destroy them with neglect. You don't have to win every battle. Sometimes the greatest win is simply not showing up to the fight. Ignore with discipline, not with bitterness, not with passive aggression, not with secret revenge, but with clarity, with a heart so focused on the future that the past can't distract you. Be so committed to where you're going that where you've been and who attempted to halt you no longer matters. That's when you become untouchable. Not because you fight well, but because you select better battles. Some people feed off your reaction. They want to maintain you tangled in smallness. They throw stones and wait for your roar. Don't give it to them. Let their noise echo into silence. Let them drown in their own distraction while you construct in peace. The one who ignores well does not lose. They elevate. They gain time, strength, and momentum, and in the end, they outlast the noise. This isn't passivity, it's wisdom. It's knowing that not all flames need to be put out. Some just burn out when they're not fed. You don't have to control everything around you. You just have to control what you give your energy to. That's your superpower. That's how you grow while others waste themselves attempting to win battles that don't matter. The world is full of bait, emotional traps, petty provocations. Don't bite. Learn to walk past what wants your reaction, not because you're weak, but because you're wise, you're focused. You know that every reaction costs something. So before you respond, question, is this worth my momentum? If it's not, let it go. Let your results speak later. That's how legends operate. Be the person who ignores without losing their center, who sees disorder but selects clarity, who hears lies but lives in truth, and who outgrows every trap by simply not feeding it. The most dangerous person is the one who maintains constructing while others attempt to distract him. That person becomes untouchable. Because some things don't die from confrontation, they die from starvation. So starve the distractions, speed your focus, let your energy serve your goals, not your grudges. Let your attention construct your vision, not defend your pride. And remember, silence is not surrender. It's strategy. It's leadership. And it's how you ascend quietly, consistently, completely. Let others waste their breath. You'll be too busy constructing something they can't touch. Discipline is doing nothing. When that's the smartest move, everyone celebrates action, hustle, movement, momentum. But few talk about the hidden strength of inaction. There are moments in existence where the smartest, strongest thing you can do is nothing. No reaction, no defense, no retaliation. Just silence, just stillness. Not out of fear, but out of control. Because true discipline isn't just about what you do, it's also about what you're wise enough not to do. When you pause, you gain perspective, and in that space you gain strength. When emotions are high and the atmosphere is tense, action feels urgent, but urgency is not always wisdom. In these moments, stillness is strength. Anyone can shout back, anyone can fight to be heard, but the one who restrains himself, who selects not to act until the truth is clear, carries a different kind of strength. He doesn't operate from emotion. He operates from intention. That's not passivity, that's strategy. Why is restraint so rare? Because the ego wants resolution. It wants to prove, defend, fix. Now, it can't sit with uncertainty, but wisdom can. Wisdom whispers, wait, let this unfold. The person who follows ego responds in the moment. The person who follows wisdom watches. He resists the pressure to act just because he senses something. He waits to move until he knows something. That pause, that gap between impulse and action, that's where strength lives. You construct this restraint like a muscle through repetition, through practice. When you sense anger ascend, pause. When you sense the itch to respond, wait. Breathe deeply. Journal your thoughts instead of releasing them. Go for a walk. Take space. These aren't delays, these are disciplines. You are teaching your body to serve your mission, not your mood. And with each pause, your clarity increases and your control multiplies. Picture this. You receive a harsh letter, maybe an accusation, a criticism, or a rejection. Your ego wants to reply instantly, to strike back, to set the record straight. But instead, you close the message, you step away, you sleep on it. 2 days pass. The person who sent it reaches out again, this time with an apology. And you? You've maintained your dignity, your silence, and your energy. You didn't act from emotion, or waited. And in doing so, you won. Question yourself, how many problems have you created by acting too fast? How many bridges have you burned because you reacted instead of reflected? How many situations would have resolved themselves if you had just waited? This is the hard truth. Most messes in existence are not caused by what was done to us, but are caused by how we responded. And often the response we regret is the one we made too soon. The world rewards fast decisions, quick reactions, and immediate feedback. But real mastery often lies in delayed response. When you don't permit others control your pace, when you don't permit the situation rush you, you regain strength. You see things clearly. You see people clearly. And that vision allows you to respond with wisdom, not just with force. It's the long game. It's the patient path. But it's the one that leads to victory without regret. Doing nothing doesn't mean being passive. It means being patient. It's an active decision to step back, assess, and move from a higher state of mind. This kind of restraint is rare. That's why it's powerful, because it allows you to outlast drama, outthink pressure, and outmaneuver those who are slaves to impulse. While they respond, you refine. While they destroy, you prepare. And when the time is right, you move with precision. Consider this your discipline. When you sense attacked, disrespected, or provoked, pause. You don't owe anyone an immediate reaction. You don't owe your emotions the right to lead. You owe your mission your focus. You owe your future your restraint. Most of the time, the flame you want to put out, it burns out on its own if you don't throw fuel on it with your response. Silence isn't frailty. Stillness isn't fear. They are both forms of strength that only the disciplined understand. The person who can sit with discomfort, who can wait out the storm without flinching, becomes a fortress, because nothing owns him. Not anger, not insecurity, not impulse. He selects his actions the way a master selects his words, with care, with control, and always with purpose. So the next time the heat ascends, do nothing for a moment. Let the sensing pass, let the dust settle. Let the emotion run through you without dictating your direction. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you wise. You'll still act, but not from desperation. You'll speak, but only when your words carry weight. This is how you construct an existence with fewer regrets and stronger foundation. Doing nothing at the right moment is not laziness, it's leadership. It's selecting stillness when disorder demands movement. It's selecting silence when noise demands a response. It's trusting that truth often reveals itself without your intervention. That dignity is preserved not by what you say, but by what you don't. Wait long enough, and what's real will ascend until then you hold. You pause because sometimes the strongest move is no move at all. Being unbothered makes you unbeatable. A person who cannot be disturbed is a person who cannot be defeated. Why? Because every battle requires your energy to maintain burning. Conflict thrives on your attention. Disorder needs your participation. But when you don't flinch, when you decline to respond, the storm begins to starve. The flame dies from lack of fuel. The critics lose strength. The distractions fade. You win not by overpowering the noise, but by outlasting it. You become a still mountain in the middle of madness, and mountains don't move for whispers. Being unbothered isn't just about sensings. It's a strategy. It's a choice to invest your energy where it grows, not where it gets drained. It's how you protect your mind, your mission, and your momentum. It's the art of non-reaction, not because you're passive, but because you've outgrown the need to prove yourself to small minds. That's not apathy. That's discipline. When you're ascending, people will attempt to pull you down, not because you're wrong, but because you remind them of what they're not doing. They'll question you, mock you, lie about you, all to get your attention. Don't give it. They want you to stumble, to snap, to slip. But you just grin, you say nothing. You maintain going because attention is strength, and your strength should never be handed to people attempting to distract you from your path. So how do you become someone who cannot be shaken? You construct a fortress within. You meditate, you journal, you reflect, you cease seeking validation and start seeking alignment. You become deeply grounded in your purpose, so nothing superficial can shake you. You construct your mornings like rituals. You armor your mind with truth because you understand existence doesn't get quieter, you just get stronger. Envision this. Everyone doubts you. They whisper behind your back. They call you delusional, unrealistic, too ambitious. And yet each day you ascend. You work. You improve quietly, consistently. You don't waste time defending yourself. You're too busy becoming what they said you couldn't, and one day they look up and realize you're miles ahead, not because you talked about it, but because you acted while they watched. Question yourself. What could you accomplish if you gave zero energy to distractions? How much further could you go if you ceased responding to every opinion, every insult, every delay? Most people waste their existences explaining instead of executing. But your responsibility is not to be understood by everyone. Your responsibility is to construct what you were meant to construct. Let them doubt, let them talk. You create. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means you care deeply about the right things, your family, your values, your vision, your health, your peace. It means you no longer trade your focus for foolishness. You no longer allow someone's bad day to become your bad week. You remain focused, steady, unshaken, because your existence is too important to be interrupted by things that won't matter tomorrow. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misjudge you. That's their burden, not yours. You no longer need to correct every rumor or clarify every lie. You just maintain moving, because while they argue, you ascend. While they post, you produce. While they waste, you win. That's the strength of staying grounded. You don't break, you construct. And in doing so, you become untouchable. Not through defense, but through direction. This discipline of non-reaction must be practiced daily. When someone insults you, breathe. When plans change, adjust. When delays come, grin. Every moment is a choice. Engage the disorder or ascend above it. You're not responsible for the behavior of others. You're responsible for your response, and your ability to not respond is often your greatest advantage, because some storms aren't meant to be fought, just outlive. The world pushes you to respond. News feeds on panic. But you operate on principle, not pressure. You do not dance to the beat of distraction. You move to the rhythm of purpose. Your stillness is your superpower. Your refusal to be baited is your brilliance. You don't need to win arguments. You just need to win the war of becoming. Every time you select not to respond, you multiply your strength. Every time you select to focus instead of fight, you gain ground. And every time you show up unshaken, unworn, unstoppable, you send a message without saying a word. I'm here for something bigger. That energy is rare, and because it's rare, it's respected. The world eventually notices the person who refuses to be moved. This is the quiet strength you were born to, the ability to walk through storms without absorbing them, the strength to remain steady while others break, the clarity to know what's deserving of your attention and what's not. You become unbeatable, not by outselling the world, but by outlasting it, not by responding to disorder, but by creating peace. Your peace. So the next time they come for your energy, don't give it. The next time the world throws disorder, don't catch it. Let it pass. Let it crash against your silence. You are not here to chase arguments. You are here to construct something unshakable. And that begins the moment you cease responding and start ascending. Unbothered isn't a mood, it's a mindset. And that mindset makes you unbeatable. What you don't respond to cannot control you. Nothing truly holds strength over you unless you give it permission. And that permission is granted through reaction. The moment you flare up, argue, or attempt to set things straight, you've handed over control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. You've allowed something external to reach into your internal space. And that's the cost of a reaction, your peace. Every time you respond without reflection, you make the outside world your master. But here's the truth. What you ignore loses access. What you don't respond to loses grip. You are not destroyed by what happens outside of you. You are weakened when you permit the outside enter. The insult isn't the threat. It's your obsession with it afterward. The setback isn't the danger, it's how long you carry it in your spirit. That's where the real prison is constructed, not in events, but in how you absorb them. Most chains aren't on your hands, they're on your thoughts. True freedom begins the moment you learn to permit things pass through you without permitting them live inside you. Not everything deserves space in your mind. Not every comment deserves your breath. Not every disruption deserves your correction. When you pause, when you refrain, when you stay composed, you maintain what matters most, your authority. People think silence is surrender, but real silence, strategic silence, is strength in disguise. It says, I see it, I select not to give it strength. So how do you become this kind of person? How do you move through flame without catching flames? You master the pause. You construct the habit of separation between stimulus and response. You say to yourself, this moment is loud, but I will be quiet. You breathe before answering. You sit before speaking. You wait before responding. Because peace isn't found after action, it's found in restraint. That's where the control lives. Condition yourself to carry an inner script that overrides the urge to respond. When something stings, remind yourself, this does not deserve my energy. Not because you're weak, but because you are wise. Not because you fear confrontation, but because you select elevation. It's easy to mirror the disorder, but leaders create tranquility. And you only do that by declining to permit every ripple reach your shore. You don't allow outer noise to infect your inner tone. Picture this. You're in a room filled with people. Someone insults you, maybe even publicly. The words land, you sense the sting. All eyes turn toward you. They expect anger, a comeback, a fight. But instead you remain composed. You speak with grace or not at all. You permit your silence carry weight. That one moment you didn't just ignore the insult. You declared, I am not yours to move. That's not submission. That's sovereignty. Question yourself, how much damage have you caused in your existence by responding too quickly? How many doors closed? How many relationships strained? How much of your peace was lost, not from what was said, but from how you responded? When you respond, you belong to the world. You hand it your focus, your voice, your mood. But when you stay tranquil, you reclaim it all. The less you respond, the more powerful you become. Every time you remain tranquil in the face of disorder, you construct a layer of strength others can sense. People begin to sense your stability. They see you as a person who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't dance to every provocation, and that earns you something rare: respect without demand. You don't need to dominate the room. You own the room by simply declining to be rattled. Don't give your strength away cheaply. Your attention is currency. Your energy is limited, and your reaction is access. The moment you permit someone pull you into their storm, you abandon your own weather. You start living their script instead of yours. Guard your energy like royalty guards a throne. Not everything deserves an audience with your soul. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive, no matter how right the reaction might send. Here's the hidden truth. What you ignore will die. Not immediately, but eventually. Drama fades without fuel. Gossip shrivels without attention. Provocations lose steam without resistance. Your silence doesn't validate the lie. It drains its existence. Your stillness doesn't permit them win. It ensures you don't lose, because your existence is constructed on clarity, on focus, and every reaction is a tax on that clarity you can't afford to pay. This doesn't mean you tolerate everything. It means you select your battles. You speak when it constructs something, not when it just proves a point. You move when it aligns with purpose, not when it merely satisfies ego. You lead yourself before you respond to anyone else. And in doing so, you stay in control of your outcomes, your mindset, and your identity. Let them say what they will. Let them bait, let them speculate. Your reaction is their goal. Deny them that satisfaction. Be so locked in on your mission that distraction looks like noise, not a threat. Be so grounded in who you are that insults sound like whispers, not commands. And be so committed to peace that disorder has no space to live in you. What you don't respond to can't own you. What you don't respond to can't shape you. And what you ascend above, it cannot follow you. Maintain your peace. Guard your strength. Respond only to what matters, and you will live truly free. Win quietly. Let the world catch up later. Real strength never announces itself. It doesn't enter the room looking for approval. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't need applause or validation. Instead, it moves in silence. It constructs steadily, quietly, patiently. And by the time the world finally realizes what you've become, it's too late to halt you. Your strength is already rooted, your path already paved. Real strength isn't loud, it's inevitable. It's the force that doesn't knock before entering because it's already earned its place. You don't need to post every step. You don't need to explain your hustle or broadcast your goals. Just improve quietly. You don't need to say, "Watch me." You need to become someone worth watching. Let your transformation be private. Let your discipline be unseen. Let the results appear without warning. Because when progress is real, it doesn't need to shout. It just shows up and demands respect. Why is quiet growth so rare? Because most people want to be seen becoming. They want credit for the effort, not just the result. They crave claps for showing up, not finishing. They sense the need to prove they're on the path before they've taken enough steps. But if you're constructing for freedom, not fame, you don't need the spotlight. You construct because you're becoming, not because someone's watching. That's where real strength is formed, away from the eyes of the crowd. You don't get strong by being seen. You get strong by staying consistent when no one is watching. You ascend early when no one's asking. You endure when no one's encouraging. You construct when no one believes. You maintain going when no one claps. And you do it not because it's glamorous, but because it's yours. That's how you win quietly. That's how you construct an existence no one can take from you. Success is loud in hindsight. People will say you came out of nowhere, but the truth, you've been preparing in silence for years. While others posted, you practiced. While they argued, you studied. While they doubted, you committed. You didn't need them to see you. You needed to become what they couldn't imagine. Let your future surprise them. Let your results speak the language your silence was writing all along. There's strength in quiet progress. It removes distractions. It sharpens focus. It teaches you to trust yourself, not their reactions. When you cease performing for attention, your energy goes into growth. You don't have to explain why you're absent, why you're unavailable, why you're different. You just are, because you're selecting depth over display, because your vision is more important than their opinion, and when it's ready, they'll see. Envision this. Years from now, someone looks at you, disciplined, tranquil, successful. They question, "When did you become like this?" And you grin, because it didn't happen overnight. You've been at it for years. You changed your mornings. You conditioned instead of talked. While they sought likes, you sought levels. And now you don't have to explain anything. Your existence is the proof. Your results are the announcement. Question yourself. Are you working for applause or for advancement? Are you hungry to be seen or hungry to become? If the claps cease, will you maintain constructing? If no one notices, will you still show up? That's the test. That's the difference. The person who constructs for applause needs noise to move. The person who constructs for growth moves regardless. And when you construct without noise, you gain something rare. Unshakable confidence. Confidence that doesn't rely on compliments. Discipline that doesn't need to be displayed. A mindset so focused, so grounded that distraction loses its appeal. You don't chase comparison. You don't rush to compete. You're in your own lane. You're constructing something too personal to share too early. And that's why you're winning, even before the world knows it. Your reward isn't in being recognized. It's in becoming undeniable. Let others seek attention. You seek growth. Let them show the world their hustle. You show the world your transformation after it's done. Let them flash effort. You'll display results. Your silence is not frailty, it's strategy, it's focus, it's your refusal to leak strength for temporary praise, because while they're being seen, you're becoming someone they never saw coming. You don't need to make noise. Noise fades, but results echo. You don't need to defend your dream. You need to construct it. You don't need to be known now. You need to become someone worth knowing when it's done. That's why you ascend early. That's why you say no to distractions. That's why you disappear when others demand you stay visible. Because greatness requires solitude. And you're not afraid of being unseen. The world celebrates the loud, but it's the quiet ones who shift it. The ones who maintained their head down while everyone watched the wrong things. The ones who selected growth over gossip. The ones who sacrificed attention for mastery. That's who the world remembers. Not when they start, but when they arrive. By the time the world notices, you'll be too far ahead to catch forward. So stay quiet, stay steady. Let your work be private. Let your habits stay sacred. Don't rush to share. Don't race to prove. Just become. Because one day the questions will come. When did you change? How did you get so far? And your answer will be simple. While you were watching noise, I was constructing in silence. Let this be your code. No need to post it, just do it. No need to prove it, just become it. No need to announce it, just arrive. Because real strength doesn't beg to be seen, it becomes impossible to ignore. When you act as if nothing bothers you, you reclaim your strength. You cease giving others control over your mind. Let them guess what you're thinking. Let them wonder how you stay so tranquil. That silence, that stillness, it's your strength. Every time you decline to respond, you ascend above. So walk forward, unbothered, unshaken, unstoppable. You don't owe anyone your peace. Maintain it, guard it, master it, because the tranquil person in the room always wins.